I think a politics that doesn't include that spiritual seeking will always be an empty politics.
I'm very intrigued by your revelations in your new book, All My Bones Shake. And in your book you acknowledge that you started from a secularist position. But yet 3/4 of this book is devoted to, dare I say, I mean this is my interpretation, you devoted to spirituality, and to quote you, such a spirituality is desperately needed, you say in your book, and the spirituality which secularism doesn't offer.
Yeah.
But indeed Christianity, explain.
Well, I come from a left political tradition that's critical of concentrations of power, whether those are concentrations of power in the economy or in a nation state or in the identities around race and gender, for instance. And those are important critiques to engage in. But they don't answer a more fundamental question, which is what does it mean to be truly human in the world? That's always a spiritual question. Some people seek answers to that through traditional religions, some people through other means. But whatever we do, we need to answer that question. And so I think a politics that doesn't include that spiritual seeking will always be an empty politics. On the other hand, a spiritual seeking that doesn't engage with the political realities around inequality in this world will always be an empty spirituality. So the older I've gotten, the more I've realized my politics needs to deepen, not to take myself out of political activism, but to deepen my understanding of where that political activism should lead us. And no one has answers to that. That is always a seeking. It's always a struggle, whether one is a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or secular. These are, I think, integral to good politics. And I think too often, reflecting on my life on the left in the United States, people on the left have been unwilling to do that. On the other hand, a lot of the spiritual seekers in the U.S. have been unwilling to engage politically. It's that merger that we need.
A very interesting point, although when one looks at the practices that dominates in the world today, one cannot but note that the secular paradigm predominates in terms of the politics, the economics, academia, predominates. But when you say that in fact religion can offer an answer to the malaise that we find ourselves in today, this is the antithesis, of course, of the secular doctrine.
Well, only if that secular doctrine, I think, is understood narrowly. We can think of the secular world as advancing the search for knowledge. Certainly much of the modern university system is dedicated to the expansion of knowledge. We can also recognize throughout human history that knowledge itself has been inadequate to shape human existence. Indeed. Therefore, the secular worldview in approaching questions about the natural world, such as how do chemicals interact, what happens when electricity flows through a wire. Those are questions that science, the scientific method, the Enlightenment attitude can help us understand, but they can't tell us how to be human. And so the search for knowledge and the search for meaning certainly are not separate. We use that knowledge to deepen our sense of meaning, and our sense of meaning guides the search for knowledge. But I don't see them in conflict. I see them as, again, integral to each other. We want to recognize the limits of human knowledge. One, of course, the great failings of human beings is to think we know more than we do, which tends to lead to ecological disasters, for instance. So we need to temper the hubris that comes with that knowledge. On the other hand, people who seek an understanding only through spiritual paths are never going to fully be able to operate in the world without the knowledge that comes through what are primarily secular inquiries. So again, I think we need to bring together different traditions, not to fight for dominance, which will be triumph over the other, but to recognize the interaction.